Hey guys, welcome to episode number 4 of Is It Legit? And today we're going to be talking about how we, as a real estate team, use these FBI tactics to have crazy results for our clients. A lot of our clients have been very, very happy. You know, a lot of our buyers have been able to get into homes. And in this crazy multiple offer market, we're in Seattle, by the way, Seattle, Washington, which is actually one of the hottest markets in the whole nation. And we're also able to sell homes for significantly more, I would say, than the average agent can. So you guys may be thinking, oh, well, any agent can sell homes right now for way above asking. Well, here's the thing. We literally have sold apples to apples condominiums and single family homes for significantly more. I think for one of the condos, we had 4 of them, and they're pretty much the same condos. We had 4 of them come out at the same time, and ours was not the nicest one out of all of them, yet we were still able to sell for, I believe, the highest price and by a long shot. So we actually had a crazy appraisal issue. It was like over, it was a lot. And the question is, how are we able to get these results? How are we able to get these agents to take our offer or for them to write these crazy offers for our sellers, thus making them a significant amount, right? And so we're going to then talk about the basic strategies of these FBI agents. Most of our information comes from Chris Voss. He is a FBI, I don't know, he's probably like the highest on the chain when it comes to like hostage negotiations and any kind of negotiations. He's like the FBI negotiator who teaches other FBI agents. And he talks about the basic principle is diagnosing before you prescribe. And it shows you how to diagnose and how to prescribe at the highest level to be able to get the best results. Now, in hostage situations, these tactics actually will get them, it's made to get 100% of the results, because in hostage negotiation, you don't ever want to make a mistake. You don't ever want to not get the results, right? So we're going to share these tactics with you. And these are tactics that you can use for your personal life. And, you know, to be honest, we negotiate all the time, little things, like just all the time. And these are some of the things that you could use for your business or your personal situation. So let's talk about diagnosing. Now, John has done incredible in not only getting our buyers into homes, which you've gotten a lot of them this year into homes in this crazy multiple offer market, but you've also, you know, sold homes for our clients for significantly more. So what do you do in terms of the diagnose part?
So the diagnosing part, you have to have a kind of a paradigm of this is how I want the conversations to flow. And when you get into the diagnosing part, the first thing that you want to remember is that the goal is not to be correct on a fact or be right or to shout your point as loudly as possible, although I've done that before without any success or much success. Is the first goal is to make sure that the other party feels understood.
Yes.
And accepted.
Yes.
That is the key. You know, if you don't open the door, you're not going to be in the room to make any sort of change, right? So
that's good.
How do you get there? Well, there's a couple of things. But before we get to that, you know, the 2 human urges that Chris Voss always talks about in the book, Never Split the Difference, which is a great book. Highly, highly recommend it. The 2 urges that we have as human beings when we're entering into these high-stakes situations is how do we feel safe and secure, and how do we feel like we're in control, right? I deal with this even with my 4-year-old. Whenever I get home, he wants something this way, and when I tell him, he wants to immediately oppose me, and it's not because, you know, he wants to piss me off, but it's because he wants to be in control. And really, I see my son and I see how this is kind of the base emotional level that a lot of people are dealing with.
The human nature.
The human nature, you know, this urge.
Right.
And that's completely normal because we're human beings. But how do you then have these strategies to fall back on, right? The main thing that you want to achieve is tactical empathy, and you want to use this almost like a weapon. Empathy sounds kind of fluffy and, you know, kind of feel good and all these things, but tactical empathy means you're using pointed techniques to gain trust, to gain rapport, to build love, even in certain situations, like between us. But it's really to produce a feeling that makes people feel understood and accepted. So the first thing is mirroring. We talked about that the last podcast. Won't go too much into that. A higher level of that would be emotional labeling. Emotional labeling just means you are trying to package and understand their emotions and actually taking what's in their head out and putting it on the table for
Yes.
both of you to see, right? And the tone in which you do that is also very important because you have to say it in a confident tone that is a downward inflection, right?
Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a problem in a lot of the, like kids talk like this and like that,
yeah, like that exactly. So what we were taught actually in real estate is to talk in a downward inflection. So that means like rather than talking like this, you're talking like when your parents told you to clean your room, what would they say? Would they say clean your room? No, obviously
Maybe
not.
a millennial
Right?
parent would. But.
Yeah, probably. But the more confident tone, the more commanding tone is clean your room, right? In a downward inflection. Clean your room. Sign the contract, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Yeah. So anyway, that's the downward inflections for you.
And it is really important that, it's practiced all the time. You have to be kind of embodying that thing.
Yes.
So mirroring, emotional labeling, and tone. And what you really want to do is recognize their perspective and vocalize what you recognized. So the way I always understand it is if they have a fear, an insecurity, a worry, right? Because that's how we really connect with people is when we're vulnerable and we're kind of saying, man, this really worries me, right? And I can say this to you because I know you and, you're not going to use it against me. But in a stranger type situation, you want to build that rapport as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Sometimes you have like 30 seconds to make a difference. Go.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I am afraid of something, I want somebody to extract those fears, and I want to say their fears back to them.
Yes.
A little bit louder than they're even saying it to themselves. Somebody might say, you know what? I want to buy this home, but I just don't think it's the right time for me. Oh, wow. Unpackage that in a minute.
You don't think it's the right time for you?
Yeah, I mean...
It sounds like you're afraid that if you make a move right now that you'll lose, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be an example.
Which is actually another strategy is you try to label something so that... Because when you label something and you take a chance, essentially, there's two ways that it could play out. Number one is that you're actually right. Yes. Oh, yeah, right? And you see me like... And a lot of people do that. They'll say... Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can see that sigh. You can see that.
Exactly. And I feel
psychological relief.
It's a relief. Mm-hmm. Or you're wrong, but then you took a chance and I'll correct you.
Which is still doing the same thing.
Which is still doing the same thing because now you're like, oh, this is what you meant. And I'll be like, yes.
Right.
You got me today. It's 12:48 p.m. and I feel understood today. Today was a good day, right?
And I just want to quickly say, people are like psychologically suffocated. If you give people that psychological air, this is in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yes. Okay, John, you touched me twice today. But anyway, so if you give people the psychological air, I mean, even that in itself, because it's so rare that people are going to listen, they'll immediately build that rapport with you.
That's a really important relational thing. Like, I think for a lot of guys, and sorry for stereotyping, it's like we want to constantly prescribe, like, oh, just fix the door, just do this.
Here we go. Yeah.
No, but it's like, a lot of women are very, like, they don't care about that. They want to feel like their point is understood.
Yes.
It's like, oh, this coworker got a raise,
Yeah. Yeah.
I could be like, well, why don't you just do better and just get a raise yourself? Peace.
Here
But
we
it's
go.
more like,
Here
oh,
we
what?
go.
Becky got a raise?
Yeah.
You work way harder than Becky.
Yeah, that sounds really frustrating. 'Cause
Super
you feel like
frustrating.
you work hard, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah," and they get emotionally, and then all of a sudden their shoulders come down. They feel it's amazing stuff, guys. It's
Yeah.
These are amazing tactics.
It really is. And it's because you have that framework. You can then play in that framework and
Yes.
kind of dance around and, kind of do these things. But,
Yeah.
it's really about the person that we all know in our lives that really has that glow, that really has that charisma, that charm. Oh, man, this guy, I just know he can walk into a room and make a difference, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about good looks. And it's not just about, it's really about how do you dissect that from a person? Well, this is it.
This is it. I'm telling you, this is it.
Yeah.
These are the things that make that person that charismatic character and able to be in any social situations or,
Yes.
it's incredible stuff.
It really is. I mean, I'm very analytical, and sometimes, or in the past, when I didn't know these things, I just wasn't able to make as much of a difference as I do now.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, well, logically, 1 + 1 = 2, and 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after you recognize their perspective and vocalize that recognition, then the next part is what? Then it's the prescription.
Yes.
How to then make a change, because you've opened the doors and now you're in the room. How do you make the change?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I want to tell you guys the indicators of when, because they have to feel fully understood. Again, your words will fall on deaf ears if you don't make sure that they feel fully understood. So when there are some people who just talk forever, and sometimes you just got to move on with your life and just prescribe right there. But for the most part, the indicators of them feeling fully understood is actually you have to pause. This is a tactical pause. So you pause. Many times when you pause, they're actually going to continue talking more, right? And then you have to wait and you have to listen. I mean, again, you're actually listening. You're actively listening here. At the same time, when you pause and they feel like they don't speak anymore, that's when you know, okay, now it's time to prescribe. So let's talk about prescription. Prescription, the way Chris Voss does it, the FBI director of hostage negotiations, the way he does it is he actually asks questions. So when someone, like let's just say a listing agent says, hey, my seller needs $20,000 more or we can't make this work, then he actually asks really tactical questions. So like, how do you expect us to do that? Like, how can we do that? How can we give you $20,000 more, right? And then because a lot of people, they're actually really emotional in the beginning. We don't want to talk about system 1 versus system 2 thinking because it gets a little complicated. Basically, you want them to get from the emotional to logical. So when you ask them, how am I supposed to do that? How is my buyer supposed to do that? Then that gets them from the emotional to thinking logical. So you definitely want to ask them the right questions. And you basically, what Chris Voss says, that you have to ask them questions in a way where they come to the conclusion by asking them the right questions, right? So that would be one of the tactics. The other thing I do is actually when I prescribe, when I feel like they're fully understood, I actually prescribe in a very confident, very convicted tone. And so one of the things that I remember I had a friend, right? So this friend, I'm going to call him Joe, right? So Joe was wrong 90% of the time. Everything he said, I swear he was wrong so many times. Yet almost every single time we would keep listening to this guy and keep trusting him. And the reason why we did is because, not that we're just dumb, I don't think I'm that smart, but some of my friends are now doctors, and to be honest, yeah, it's not that we were just dumb, but it's because of the way he said things, the way he sold things, right? He spoke with so much conviction and so much confidence that it just made us listen to them. So again, to recap, you have to make sure they're fully understood, or else words are gonna fall on deaf ears. And then you got to prescribe in a very, like the way I'm kind of speaking right now, I'm speaking with confidence, right? So the other thing is, like, how do you build that confidence? Like, how do you get to a place where you can say things in such a bold way? And I honestly, I built that, guys, over the many years by having more confidence in myself. Not necessarily pride, but for me, like, I keep integrity. Like, if I say I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, I'm there. And if I say I'm going to do something, I do things, right? Because I know in my heart, I will usually do the right thing in almost every situation. If I don't feel right about it, I usually don't do it. So that's how I'm able to build my confidence and say things in a way that is powerful. And then the listener, once they feel understood, and then I'm speaking in such a confident, almost commanding tone, that's where you are able to achieve the best results. Like I said, guys, these tactics are very important, and you guys can use them for pretty much any situation. And these are FBI tactics. A couple of other points that I just want to mention that works really well is anchoring. Anchoring is such a huge tactic because, like, for example, if a listing agent wants $20,000, we call it extreme anchoring. Like, I'll tell them, hey, my clients can only do $2,000, knowing that my clients are willing to do even $20,000 or $15,000, right? But we want to anchor them really low. It's called the law of concession. People want to feel like they're winning in some way, right? People want to feel like they're in control. And so what I always say is, like, in a negotiation, I punch them really hard in the stomach and I nurse them back into life. So it's like $20,000 you want, I say $2,000, and then we end up at $5,000 or $7,000. My clients obviously won, but we use that anchoring to get them down. It's the expectation thing. And then the other thing I kind of play on is the loss aversion. So if they want $20,000, I'll be okay, well, my clients are probably going to walk away. This is not going to work for us, but I'll talk to them. And really, by the loss of, like, oh my gosh, we had these buyers on hook, and my clients really want to buy this other home, but they have to sell their home first. It's like when they feel that loss, the fear of loss is way, way stronger than the positive of gaining something. So extreme anchoring and loss aversion, very powerful tactics. So again, guys, you can use these tactics in your everyday life. Be very careful of using it on your spouse. I say don't even do it, but I would say that this does pertain to most situations, even, in your workplace and whatnot. So yeah. Do you have anything else?
I can only say and add that psychology is a huge part of understanding how we work as human beings. And you really owe it to yourself, because to truly be happy and to produce the results that you want and to understand why we make all these crazy decisions and have these thoughts, you have to understand the psychology. And once you get to the understanding, then the action plans on, these things, it's the gift that continues to give, because it continues to make a difference. Like, for example, my wife, she just graduated from school again, and she is now a nurse practitioner, and she was actually negotiating for her salary. And I took stuff right out of this book.
Yep.
There's another type of anchoring called the range of anchoring, right? It's like, well, Mr. Graduate, okay, I can offer you, $100,000 in salary, right? And you might say, well, I see the research I've done shows that people with my experience and schooling get $120,000 to $145,000. How can we make this work, right? So we actually did a very similar thing because the thing is, she was anchored by the hiring person.
Yeah,
because
he knows what he's doing.
Because the agent was like, well, this is typically the pay. She didn't say this is the pay. And now my wife is anchored here. I'm like, no, you got to counter anchor that.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's beautiful.
And we actually was able to get her, like, I want to say $15,000 or $20,000 more per year.
That's awesome.
She didn't bully anybody. She's like the nicest, like, person ever.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, what if? I'm like, no, just give them the range. We practiced it, and then her and her friend actually both got the same salary.
That's crazy.
So it's a gift that continues to give, and it's beautiful. So
very, very powerful techniques. And by the way, other friends have used Chris Voss's techniques and have gotten even much crazier gains, like the positions that they got.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, this stuff is insane. We use it for our real estate business all the time. Again, it seems like, okay, how are we able to get our clients' homes sold for significantly more than our competitor agents? Well, it seems like, our tactics, the way we stage homes, the way we do photos, the way we market homes. But really, this is the key, guys. This is the key factor that makes us so much more effective in this business. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for staying tuned for our Is It Legit podcast. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We'll have much more information like this. We're going to be talking about business, how to invest, and health, and things of that nature. So thank you, guys, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.